Hey, all, Andy here, helping you build a career you love. Great to have you. Today we're talking resume stuff. In particular, the career profile. Going to be a lot of fun. Got some tips. Got some more tips. Got some bonus tips for you. If you're here with me live, get in the chat. Say hi. We're multicasting today. So we're on YouTube, where I normally am and have been for many years. We're also on LinkedIn. Hopefully, the LinkedIn folks can see us. Wherever you're watching, I hope you have a great time. I can see you in the chat, no matter where you're chatting from, and we are monitoring the YouTube chat. Kara will be in there, doling out gifts and probably dollar bills and things like that. But I just want to say hi to everybody. Kurt, great to have you. Curtis, Ziaudin. Great to have you. Adam Stark, fan of Andy, because I love that handle. Kem, Cassandra, Jay, TMS, Kristen. Let me know where you're watching it from. I always love to know. And if you have some questions, put some question marks in front of your questions. So when we go to the chat, or when we go to the chat and we do the Q&A after I do the teaching portion, I'll be able to find them. So great to have everybody. If you're in any of my programs, make sure you use your hashtag so I can give you a shout out. All right, let's get to it. What's today all about? I want to talk about what I think is one of, if not the most vital components of your resume, which is the career profile, and I will show you where that is and what it's all about. But basically, at the top of your resume, you should have a summary to introduce yourself to whoever's looking at your resume. Most of the time, it might be a recruiter who's seeing it first, but even if it's a hiring official or a CEO or whoever, it's a great way to introduce yourself. And I think a lot of people miss the opportunity to get all the benefits of painting the picture that you want them to see about you. So I want to talk about not only why that's important to do, but exactly what it should look like. Exactly. I'm going to show you exactly. I'm going to give you the formula. I'm going to give you the pieces to fill in. I'm going to give you the 8 major parts that I think go in it. And I'm also going to show you a sample. And I'm also going to take you through how to use the information that you prepare for your career profile and how you use it as a bonus to introduce yourself in the interview. So I want to run through this, and if you are struggling with resume writing, go into the chat. Let me know in particular what it is that you struggle with the most on your resume, as well as even if you are trying to summarize who it is that you are and what you do. What's your biggest struggle with that? So let me get into that, and I am gonna do some note cards today. I've got some slides to show you, and the first thing that I want to show you is how somebody generally looks at your resume. And this might help illuminate why being upfront and having this is so critical. And so let me flop over here to my little slides. And for illustrative purposes, I have put in kind of a layout of a resume, left side, right side. So a 2-page resume. For most people in the commercial world, white collar professionals, unless you're using a CV style where you're more in academics or the medical field or research or something of that nature, generally a 2-page resume is what to go with. And when somebody opens your resume, even if they open it 1 page on top of the other, by the way, this is for illustrative purposes, and a lot of the information in there is what I have inside the template that I use in my premium programs to provide instruction so that people can see exactly what goes where. But up at the top left is the career profile, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like. But first, I want to show you how somebody's eyes go through a resume. And when a recruiter is looking at this, especially somebody who sees a lot of resumes, there are questions that shoot through their mind that they want answered right away. And we want, as a job seeker, to make sure that we're answering the questions as they naturally would have them, and we don't want to disrupt the conversation that they're having with themselves or the flow of what they're asking and where they expect to find what information they want to know about you. So basically, this is what it looks like. They want to know immediately, in 1 second, who are you? Generally, you could sum that up in a noun-verb combo or a verb-noun combo. combo either which way. I'm a career coach, or I coach people, I coach executives, I coach white-collar professionals. I'm an international career coach, something like that. And then what is the major accomplishment that I do? Well, I help people find jobs, or I help people grow in their careers. It is a major accomplishment and a roll-up just so that you can get an idea of what my end result is. When I'm done doing what I do, what happens? And then, well, if I'm an employee, well, where am I working? What type of companies? What type of industries? How experienced am I? Am I a 20-year veteran? Something of that nature. Or am I a recent college graduate, right? Or am I somebody who's been working for a couple years? What are the business functions that I know? I call these core competencies. You might want to roll in skills, but basically, specifically, what is it that I know? And while at this moment you're basically self-proclaiming the skill sets that you know, it's at least good to list them for the human eye or the applicant, what I call trashing system, the ATS, just so that they can see some of these keywords and that they understand what business functions you know. They look for, is this really evidence of the fact, or are they making self-proclamations and opinions that I am a self-starter, or I am, customer service oriented, or I am a great leader or a great communicator, which at this point they can't tell, right? Those are your claims about what you think you are. And so they look at this at the top of the resume, which is where part one of two, basically the career profile is the first thing they see. Hopefully your selected accomplishments is the second thing they see. Basically, that's what they're asking themselves. And if your resume is done well, what do I say about the resume? The resume really only has one goal, right? To get you a job interview. And ultimately what you want the reviewer to do at this point in their review is, this profile is so awesome, I need to talk to this person, right? You want your resume to get the reviewer to say, I need to talk to this person. The faster it does that, the better it is. And a well-written resume should require no more information than what I'm just showing you here at the top, where they're asking those questions. Because if you have encapsulated who you are and what you're about, there is a great likelihood that I am already leaning that I want to talk to you. So this is really important. I can't drive this home enough. So really think about, how do you encapsulate that right out of the chute? And then they continue on and they start to go down the left column of your resume, looking for the organizations that you work at. Where do you work now? People think in terms of time. They want to conceptualize your evolution and where you are now, where you were before. Do you have good career runs, so to speak? What are you called? Have you evolved in your career? Do you have consistency in the places you work? What used to be considered a good career employment run is being relaxed a little in today's world, because people are a little bit more transient than they used to be, right? People change jobs more frequently for a number of reasons. There's a lot more opportunities in the world, and the internet has made it a lot easier for us to find new employees. It's made it easier for job seekers to find new opportunities. Not to mention, a lot of people take shots at their own businesses and things of that nature. So there's just a lot more opportunities, a lot more mobility in the world. But even so, do you have pretty good runs? I could start to tell this. Do you have any gaps? So one of the things I always mention is, I don't love functional resumes. I have not found many recruiters who do, because people do think in terms of time and they want these questions answered at this point in their review. If you have a functional resume, usually the recruiters think, well, that's code for you're trying to hide something, because if you didn't have anything to hide, you would just give me, where you're working, when you're working. I could see the stream of your career. But if you put it in terms of a functional resume where you are listing your skill sets and where you've attained those, and group the companies for which you've done certain skill sets, it hides our ability as reviewers, whether we're the recruiter or the hiring official or the HR person or the talent acquisition director, whoever it is, to understand, well, where do you currently work? Where have you worked before? And so what you're doing is you're sending the person into negative town, right? They're immediately assuming that you're hiding something, and now they're looking for it. which is not what you want them to do. Gaps are not the end of the world. It is okay to have them. Many times there are good reasons why you have them. Don't hide them. So anyway, so this is what they're asking. Are you hiding anything? And then what I do, and I think most people do this, is they don't read the top of the second page. They go to the bottom of the second page because why? Usually that's where people put what? Your education, maybe your schooling, maybe your degrees, anything else that you've done. Have you sat on boards? Have you volunteered? This is other new pieces of information that the recruiter wants to see. I know I can get to the rest of your work experience, but candidly, I've probably seen enough of it at this point where I just want to know what else have you done. Okay, so they're going through this on the bottom half, so they kind of read it like a U. And then they get to the other parts of what your work history, which is usually stuff that you've done in previous years ago. So for completeness sake, they zip through that. Where else have you worked? So on and so forth. And they do all this within a matter of seconds. Now, I'm not saying that this is the only review of your resume that somebody does. I'm saying that this is your chance to get them excited right away. And that narrative and that story you're telling them that starts at the top of your resume with your career profile, or you might call it a career summary or an executive profile or whatever. I don't really care what you call it, but you're giving me a way to look at and contextualize all the things that I'm taking in on your resume. So that's why it's so important to get that narrative done the way you want it controlled, because you want me to know about you what you want me to know about you. If you don't have a summary at the top, as I read the resume that way, what do I need to do? If your work or your resume starts with your most recent job, right? I currently work here, so to speak, and then I worked here, and then I worked here, and then I worked here. What I need to do is I need to look through that and do what? Build the story about you for myself. And in doing that, number one, I'm probably not going to build as good a story as you could have spoon-fed me. But number two, what else is it doing? It's taking me longer to assemble the story about you than rather you just feeding it to me. So when people say to me, Andy, I don't want to put a summary at the top of my resume, that just takes up more time for people to read. No, that's the thing that's the best part of your resume that reduces the amount of time I need to spend in the rest of the resume. Remember, your resume is to get me to want to talk to you, and the faster it does that, the better it is. The more you encapsulate who you are and what you're about into one little piece that I can see, the faster it'll get me to know that I want to talk to you. Otherwise, I have to assemble that story. It actually takes me longer, and I'm probably going to make some mistakes. So that's another reason why you want to have this career profile. Now, I don't know if we got any good doozies. Kara's telling me consistent project consistencies and career profile, especially career changers. I know I get that one a lot. I think we're going to do a whole session on that alone because it's such a different animal when you write one for a career changer. But let's go on. I want to give you the 8 pieces. Then I want to give you the formula. Then I want to give you the samples. All right, so wait, let me take a sip of this. If you guys are enjoying this, make sure you click the thumbs up button on YouTube or on LinkedIn. I don't know how you can send me the message. Maybe click the like button that you're enjoying it. I do love talking about this stuff. All right, now I showed you kind of the questions that go through a recruiter's head. Right. So what are the 8 pieces of information you want to get into the profile? Let's just inventory what these are, and then I'm going to show you where they go and how they go. First one, who are you? Right? 2 to 3 words. What did I say? A verb noun combo. Just who are you? Don't overcomplicate it. Don't be generic. Like, make sure I understand. If you say senior executive, I don't know of what. Okay? Just who are you? Try to be specific. This does not need to be a title. You can use generic functional words. Hopefully that's coming through. It's very sunny where I am, and I don't usually see the sun a lot where I am this time of year. All right, second thing, how experienced you are, just reiterating some of the questions that are going through my head. Now, you might say, well, Andy, I'm an old guy like you, Andy, right? I've been working 34 years. Do I want to put that I've been working 34 years? You don't have to. You could say more than 20. Or you can highlight specificity in where you want to lead me. Meaning, let's say you've been working for 20 years You got 10 years in healthcare and 10 years in financial services. If you are reaching out to organizations in the financial services sector, whether you had 10 years in FS and 10 years in HC in that order, and you want to draw my attention to your earlier experience, or maybe you went back and forth, either which way, up at the top, you say 20 years of experience, 10 in financial services, or something like that. So what's either the total number or the relevant experience? You can hide your age if you want. You can drop your age off your bachelor's degree, and you don't have to say you've been working for 34 years like I have, but I would say it if it was me. Okay, what is your subject matter expertise? So it comes in different forms, and it could come in a combination of these forms. So do you have a solution that you're experienced in? Maybe there's a function. Maybe it's marketing. Maybe it's customer service, but you in particular know customer relationship management systems. Maybe that's your forte. Maybe it's such your forte you want to call attention to it. Maybe you want to genericize it. If you're applying for a job and using those CRM skills, you might call their attention to it. If it's more of a customer experience or customer success position, you might want to genericize what it is. Kara's telling me the stream is freezing, and I don't know why. I hope it continues, and maybe you can refresh. But let me keep rolling. And if anybody's having trouble, hop over to YouTube. I'm sure it's working there because I can see me moving. All right, products and services. Maybe there are particular functional products, software products, technical products, networking infrastructure solutions, or anything of that nature. Or maybe it's a particular service type. Maybe you're a consultant. Maybe you've done a lot of consulting. Maybe you've done a particular type of consulting. Either which way, call their attention to the subject matter expertise that you have. If it's appropriate and you want to highlight it, I would go at the industry. So your market, your sector, you could use either of those terms: financial services sector, financial services markets, insurance, banking, whatever it is, or company types. Maybe they're not-for-profit. Maybe they're community groups. Maybe any different way you want to label. And here again, everything that you're pointing to, and I will say this for everything all the time. If you say, well, Andy, should I do this or should I do that? My automatic response back to you is whatever markets you best. Sometimes you want to be more specific. Sometimes you want to be more generic. It depends what the situation calls for, and your situation is going to be unique to you and what you're doing, whether you're applying online or whether you're networking or whether you're boss hunting or whether you're teammate targeting or you're recruiter hunting or whatever it is that you're doing. But you get the idea, and I'll give you some examples of what these are. Kara, let me know if anything has been fixed on the LinkedIn thing. All right, company sizes. So there's small, medium, large, right? There's Fortune 10, 50, 100, 500, 1,000, Fortune 5,000, could be public, private, could be whatever, could be startups, right? A startup may be small, but a small company may not be a startup. You might want to call their attention to that, whatever markets you best. But think in terms of company size. And then this one I cannot stress enough. And this is where I see a lot of people going wrong, okay? Singular major accomplishment. It's a roll up, baby. Okay, it's a roll up. Now, I wanna digress here for a second. When we're talking about a career profile, it's a profile. It's a summary. Now, throughout your resume, and basically for the rest of the resume, meaning the next section, if you go to the Andy School of Resume Writing, has career highlights. Those are selected achievements that you want to bubble up to the top. And then below that is the professional experience section, which highlights a bit more detail on some of the major accomplishments that you've had. And when you write a resume bullet, and the career profile is not a bullet, it's a profile. But as you write resume bullets, you often want to lead with what the effect is, basically the benefit. What was the improvement that occurred as a result of you doing what you did? And then how did you do that? I raised this, I lowered that, I streamlined this. I expect some tangible benefit to come, and then you're going to explain how you did that. By reducing, by implementing a system, by doing something. But in a career profile, what you're trying to do is you want to get context to the person who's reviewing your resume, and you don't need to get down to that level of granularity. And what I see a lot of people trying to do is write resume bullets in their career profile. We don't want you to do that. I just want to understand, if you had a project or you were a salesperson where you sold $1 million project to a particular customer, these are not the kinds of things that you put in the career profile. It's the aggregation of what you've done. So if you've sold stuff, roll it all up. How much revenue have you generated in product revenue or service revenue or a combination of both for your company? If you are a project manager, talk to me about the size of the initiatives that you have implemented. I just need to understand, how much can you handle? Give me a level of context on what it is you do in summary form, because what you're then going to do for me is delineate all that stuff with some of the highlights as well as the professional experience bullets that you're going to put there. Okay, and one of the things too is I am going to show you what I mean by this, but we do have in the chat, probably in both spots if LinkedIn is still working, we do have my resume template, so you should be able to see what I mean by this, but I'm going to give you an example. But it is a singular accomplishment. Don't go crazy. And then, for completeness sake, I do want you to spell out what I call core competencies. These are specific business functions. These are not character traits. So what do I mean by this? Well, project management is a function. Strategic planning is a function. Forecasting, accounting, budgeting, things of that nature, solution development, the technological solution development that you implement is a function. Your customer service skills, or if you are customer service oriented, is a trait. I'm a leader, that's a trait. It's not a function. Okay, team management might be the function, but you want to be clear that this is something I know, not the way I operate. Okay, and if you want, you can throw in some tech skills too if they're hard skills, meaning you know certain software languages, or you know certain different products or whatever it might be. You could put them in this section. So this is another thing that you want to do. And then to round it out, 8 is a wild card. So are there other notable things about you? Do you have an MBA? Do you have a PhD? Do you know 7 languages? Right? Are you returning to the workforce? There's something else that might be appropriate for somebody to know immediately, because what? It either markets you best or diffuses something that could cause confusion later. So what's that second part? I think you get the first part, but the second part, somebody says, well, Andy, I stayed home and I had a career gap 5 years ago because I had twins and I stayed home for a year. Then in the career profile, if you think that's important for me to know because you have a gap somewhere later in your resume, just say between 2017 to 18 family care. That's it. You've answered a question for me. I don't have to worry about that. Now I know why that gap exists. Or maybe you're in a gap right now. You were a stay-at-home parent or stay-at-home dad or stay-at-home mom, returning to the workforce after 3 years of family care. Okay, I get it. So now I know why your resume ends in 2020 and not 2023 kind of thing. All right, so those are the 8 pieces. Let me just recap these really quick as we get into the formula. All right, so 8 parts of a resume career profile. Number 1, who you are in a verb-noun combo or a noun-verb combo. Second thing is how experienced you are in total or how many relevant years of experience. Number 3, subject matter expertise. What was your solution, function, product, service you know? What markets or industries are you familiar with? Number 5, company sizes, big, small, those kind of things, public, private, Fortune 1000, whatever it might be, any indication. Starla says hello, she's behind me. Singular major accomplishment, that's number 6. 7, the business functions, we call those core competencies, and 8, any potluck. Okay, mini recap in the middle for you there. All right, now, what's all this look like? Let's take a look at, let's go back to the slides here. And I want to take a look at what does this look like exactly. All right. Hey, Kara, give me a Heidi Hey if LinkedIn has ever come back. All right. So what's this look like exactly if you take what I just shared and put it into a formula? All right, so the 2 to 3 word descriptor goes first. Then say with, and then give me either the total years of experience or the number of relevant years of experience in whatever it is you do, okay? Within whatever the company types there are. Then throw your major accomplishment. Sometimes you might need to put a secondary one because there's 2 different things you do. It's okay, just don't go crazy. Okay, you can throw an additionally in there if you want. Core competencies, list them. List them. So what you want to do here is you want to just use commas. Why? Because it's easier on the eye. Don't worry about the space. The computer gets confused when you start using other things like pipes and little spaces that it doesn't need. Okay, trust me, they'll be able to find it. And then any additional point, put it at the end. That's exactly what the career profile looks like. You don't need to take a screenshot because I'm going to leave this up in YouTube land forever so you can see what I think the formula looks like. Now let's give you some examples of what the working parts are. Okay, so this is just what I said. So if we want to drop in descriptors, what do I mean by that? These are just a couple of examples, but if you're a marketing executive, put marketing executive. If you're a chief marketing officer, it's okay to put that. If you're a social media copywriter, or a copywriter or a whatever, it's okay to say that. All right, so I just want to know who you are. Maybe you're a business analyst. Maybe you're a project manager. Maybe you're an accountant, right? So something like that. Maybe you're a banker. Maybe you're an investment advisor. Maybe you're a strategic investment advisor or whatever, something like that. All right. Then company types, as I mentioned, they're small, they're startup, medium, large, public, private, Fortune 500. You could do not for profit, whatever classification you'd like to call their attention to. You don't need to say, I've worked for every type of company. Okay. Highlight what you want to draw their attention to. And then the major accomplishments will usually, not always, I sold, I managed, I optimized it. I optimized, I operated, I did whatever, I built, those kinds of things. It's a roll up, and then your core competencies, again, to reiterate in that spot, you want to put specific business functions. If you are thinking in terms of traits, that's going to go to the classification we call word vomit. Okay, because it's the blah, 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 the self-proclamations. Try to stay away from that. All right, so what does that look like as an example? All right, so if I got a resume with the career profile that looks like what I'm about to show you here, I would not even need to read the resume to know I want to talk to this person. If I was looking for a senior project manager with 10 years of experience doing what? Implementing information technology solutions. Now, she could have said implementing information technology Salesforce automation solutions. She could have said high-speed networking infrastructure solutions. It's okay. Whatever makes more sense depending on what it is you're applying for. For Fortune 500 companies, she could have said for startups to large companies. She could have said whatever. Something like that. In the financial services and healthcare sectors. All right, so she's worked in both. So she could say one, she could say both, she could say various if she wanted, if there were more, but she might want to draw their attention to certain things. Now, here is what I mean by singular accomplishment. It's a roll-up. So I conceptualize and manage full software development lifecycle programs ranging from, okay, bigness, give me size, $500,000 to $2 million in budget. Okay, so now I understand that she manages large-scale IT system implementations. Oh, and she's managed up to 25 people. Just put the big number, right? She could have said, conceptualized and managed full development lifecycle programs of up to $2 million in budget and $25 million in resources, or something like that. This, to me, is one of the most well laid out profiles because it tells me exactly what I need to know in a glance. All right. And then for the cheap seats, She listed out all the different functions. I would expect a senior project manager that implements IT full-scale SDLC initiatives to know all of these things. But it's nice that they're listed there anyway, and if you are, heaven forbid, putting your resume into an applicant trashing system, it's good to have these in there. You're also going to sprinkle them throughout your resume, but this keyword stuff is important. And this to me is not word vomit, because there is not one thing in here so far that isn't pertinent, okay? And then if there's anything else, okay, you don't have to list your education, but if she's a project management professional and she wants to list her PMP certification, great. Maybe she's got an MBA from Harvard or Yale or who cares, wherever it is. Maybe there's a particular concentration in there that she studied in computer information systems or management information systems or business information systems or something like that. So anyway, this to me is a perfect career profile. It's got all the parts and it's all factual. There's no fluff, and I got all the details I need, and I wouldn't even need to look at the rest of her resume. I don't know how many words that is. I probably should have counted them up, but that to me would get her an interview. It would, because the rest of the resume, if I see a profile like this thing is so well written, I know the rest of the resume is going to be well written, and I'm probably just going to glance at the companies. And I know they're going to be Fortune 500 companies. Okay, so that's pretty dang good. All right, now one other thing that I want to do before I kind of go into the bonus tip is I just want to reiterate, as you saw there with the sample, it's really, really important to stay focused on words that matter. Okay, those words. Don't put in a lot of the self-proclamations. These are some of the biggest mistakes that I see people make. I wrote them down because I didn't want to forget. But the self-proclamations and jargon that when strung together, I can't tell what it is that you actually do. And you've made so many self-proclamations about what it is how it is that you are, that I can't even find important information that tells me exactly what you do. So we call it word vomit. I would stay away from that. You don't need to use things like tables. Don't take up the real estate. A trained eye is going to be able to decipher the words wherever they are on the page. Even if you wrote them upside down and backwards for me, I would still be able to find what I'm looking for, because what's happening is a recruiter doesn't read the resume, number one, and the recruiter doesn't read what you want to tell them. The recruiter reads what they're looking for. So when the hiring official turns to the recruiter and says, I need you to go and find me salespeople, they say, okay, what do they need to have? Say, okay, I need to know that they've sold IT products. Great. Is there any particular solution type? If they have CRM solution sales in their background, that's a bonus. Great. Okay, what else? Any companies you want me to hire from? Any companies you don't want me to hire from? Any other skill sets that you're looking for? And then what the recruiter does is when you send the resume, up comes the resume, they glance at that really fast, and they look for the keyword matches of what the hiring official told them to look for. So that's what they're looking for, and if they don't see that, they're moving by all the other stuff that's there. So I've talked in other sessions about why it's so important to think forward into the goals of the position that you're trying to apply into or target. This is why you want to do that, is because that's going to cause you to pull forward the kind of bullets and nomenclature that are going to highlight for the potential employer that you've actually done those things before. So I want you to think about that. Just make sure that you're not doing that. And then to kind of round out this discussion, I do want to take you into this little bonus tip here, and I do have a video on my YouTube channel about how to introduce yourself in a job interview. But we just got done talking about the career profile and all those components, and this is my formula for when they say, introduce yourself, tell me about yourself, walk me through your resume, any type of question or request that comes in where you need to introduce yourself. You want to introduce yourself with a career profile-like approach. So the Jane Doe that I showed you, I'm a senior project manager who helps Fortune 500 companies implement technology systems. I've spent the last 10 years putting in large-scale software development life cycle solutions. During that time, I've implemented 7 different projects ranging in size from $500,000 to $2 million, right? Something like that. My primary focus has been technology implementations with CRM in particular. I predominantly focus in financial services and have some healthcare. As you can see from my resume, I've generally worked for large blue chip companies. I've generally worked for startup organizations. I've generally had long runs at my employers, something of that nature. As you can see from my resume, I've generally spent a few years at each position before I get elevated because I'm so awesome, right? Whatever it might be, and then throw in whatever else. I also have an MBA from Yale and my PMP certification. Does this not sound exactly like your career profile? There is a level of continuity, consistency, congruency, call it whatever you want. All this takes is the first 30 to 45 seconds for you to introduce yourself when they ask you. So I hope that gives you some context as you put together your resume. Think in terms of what are those 7 to 8 key pieces of information, and then as you get into the interviews, that's what you're going to pull forward, and that's the way you start the tell me about yourself question, or the walk me through your resume. Walking you through my resume is giving you an overview of what I am. Now you understand that that's what I do. Now I can fill in, kind of build the wall brick by brick if you want to. But that's a great way to introduce yourself. I got a whole video on that. Make sure to check it out. Now, before we leave, and I'm not going to recap the 8 parts because I did that midway through, is I do have a free resume template. It's awesome. It's free. It's going to get you interviews. I got interviewing stuff to help you get hired. But let's get, first things first, grab the free resume template. I believe Kara has dropped it in the chat, and hopefully the LinkedIn folks are getting this stuff too. But if not, hop over to YouTube because YouTube's a little bit more trusty, right? Am I right? Okay, so if you enjoyed this, make sure to click the like button, send the message to the platforms that you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. I got new videos every Tuesday, and I got live office hours on Thursday, and I got a whole lot of other stuff that pops up there too. I got my shorts that come out every day. Every day I put out a 60-second short first thing in the morning. Maybe you've been watching them. But I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. All right, if you are here with me live, we're going to the Q&A. If you're watching this on the recording, I'll see you next week.